Hey everybody, Brian over at Strong Tower Training again. Just bringing you your 5th week in the series on why brain training is best, why it's the most effective for health and fitness, and just seeing overall better results. So what we're talking about today is the arthrokinetic reflex. The arthrokinetic reflex is basically when joints are jammed or compressed, they create a lack of muscle firing. So jamming a joint or taking two bones and compressing them together at a joint can actually put pressure on nerves that run through that space in the joint. If there's compression on the nerves, they're going to get less neuronal signaling or communication, so neurons traveling back and forth from the brain to the muscle tissue. In this case, we're talking about less communication means muscle's not going to function as well. Sometimes it just doesn't turn on at all. So we've done muscle testing where we jam a joint that's related to or correlated to a specific muscle group. We'll test that muscle. The muscle's almost shut off. It's just like the person doesn't have any strength there. And then we've demoed this where it can go back and forth. Then we take tension off that joint. We create some space, a little bit of decompression. We unjam it in a sense. And all of a sudden that muscle just fires right back up. They can meet resistance and they can get the muscle to fire when they want it to fire, which timing is key here, because if you're going through day-to-day life and you step off a curb or there's a stumble or a misstep or you have to catch yourself and you have a muscle that doesn't fire at the instant that you want it to stabilize the joint, obviously way more force goes into the joint and can be more injurious versus when you have a muscle that takes pressure off and absorbs that force and impact really well, less chance of injury. We can make people really injury resistant by doing the right joint movements and then coupling that with some strength training. So it's one thing that we focus on here at Strong Tower. You can see here, I've talked a little bit through this, but joint compression can create weakness. It can create nerve symptoms like numbness, tingling, lack of sensation, lack of like skin level sensation in different areas if a muscle or if a nerve is entrapped. It can also create chronic muscle tension and inflexibility. So if you're a client training with us currently, we do those joint mobility, joint warm-up movements. You could do really well to do a couple things, like A, make a list of the ones that work really well for you and you notice a big benefit from, and 2, make it a consistent daily practice. So maybe wake up 5 minutes, 10 minutes early and make it part of your morning warm-up. It's going to help you throughout your day. Jam joints create weak muscles. We talked a little bit about this, but mobile joints that get the right amount of tension taken out of them on a consistent basis are going to create strength. And we talked about that timing thing. If a muscle fires, it's going to stabilize the joint the way we want it to. A lack of stability at a joint can also create more movement problems. So we talked about potential injury. There's going to be, if muscles aren't firing the right way, just an overall lack of stability. Let's say it's a knee or a hip. You're going to not experience as good of balance or stability really throughout that whole side of the movement chain just because there's a problem at one joint. So the human movement system, you're probably getting the picture through this video series. It works together. It's interconnected. We need to kind of take a comprehensive look at things. Doctors are great. They can be super helpful, but a lot of times they'll take a little bit of a more focused biomechanical approach where we get really focused on, okay, this is where the pain is and this is the only area that I need to treat. That actually might be a symptom of the deeper root issue, which could be at another joint or actually a muscle that's not firing. And that can cause pain in and of itself. It doesn't mean that there needs to be tissue damage if you're experiencing some pain or some discomfort in an area. The discomfort, again, could even be related to a joint up the movement chain where a muscle is not firing and not stabilizing the way it should, and it's actually impacting a joint downstream. The brain's really good at telling us when something's wrong, but it's not always very good at specifically telling us where the actual problem is. So hopefully that makes sense. Pain or dysfunction or symptom does not equate to tissue damage or that actually being the problem. We need to look at things a little bit more comprehensively, holistically from a complete nervous system approach. The last thing here, active care lasts longer than passive care. So Again, another example, physical therapy, chiropractic, they do a lot of great things. Massage therapy, fantastic. They do a lot of good things to improve circulation and improve blood flow. Sometimes they can even help with alignment. In the case of talking about chiropractic or maybe physical therapy, getting some muscles to fire better. However, if they're just focused on passive care and not looking at any active care, the results are only going to stick so long. So to create longer-term neuroplastic change in the nervous system, we really want to focus on active care or maybe combining passive care with active care together. A lot of times that can be an especially powerful stimulus or input when we start to stack passive care and active care on top of each other. So having a little bit of skin stretch or pressure at an area to help the person focus on that joint area and where we're trying to create movement, and then having them move their own joint and doing whatever mobilization or movement at that joint to create some space and take pressure off the nerves, make the joint function better. Guys, that's the arthrokinetic reflex. So I think this stuff probably makes a lot of sense. You don't have to remember the fancy term up top, but thanks for checking it out. We'll see you again in week 6.